It wasn't on the agenda, but the actions of the anti-airport crowd is putting the brakes on some other things, like a new 911 center and a sorely needed fire station, both slated for construction in West Paulding. County Manager Mike Jones explains.
But there are some unintended consequences to those actions. Late last week, we received word that the FAA has decided not to allow us to proceed with the fire station that's supposed to cover West Dallas. It was going to be co-located at the airport. That fire station was a joint facility. It was going to house our emergency management services as well as our new enhanced E911. Those are all on hold now. It's an indefinite hold until there's a ruling on the environmental assessment that's now been required. I tell you this because in November, this board voted to award a contract to a company called Prime Contracting to construct that facility. It's about $3.3 million. I can protect that bid for about 90 days. There's no way an environmental assessment is going to be completed in 90 days. What that means is that bid will have to be relet and will then be subject to whatever market prices we will experience whenever that is relet. If you believe consulting estimates, then there is a successful EA 6 months from now, we'll see this facility rebid in 6 months. I can't tell you what that cost is going to be. I can tell you it's going to go up. As the economy continues to improve, we see each of our construction bids continuing to go up above our estimates. Most notably in the New Hope area, or the New Georgia area, we recently bid a fire station. That bid come back close to 50% higher than what we would ever expected it to be. That one's in the process of being rebid. The delay of the fire station goes against what we had promised the citizens west of Dallas. We will not be able to deliver that fire protection when we thought we would. We also committed to an enhancement of our 911 system. That will now be delayed. The expansion of our EMS will be delayed. That further complicates what's going on at the detention center. As you know, the 911 center is currently housed at our detention center. They will have to remain in place. That facility was supposed to be expanded by the sheriff for use of jail administration as well as the warrants division. So one action has a lot of consequences. There are a lot of things backed up in that line, and I will give you a better schedule when I have one. I don't have one to give you. I know there are other things that are out there that we're going to have to wrestle with going forward. I know our parallel taxiways are in a mess. I don't think that's a long-term situation that we can leave where it is. That's for somebody besides me to decide when we tackle that. As these things continue to come up, I'll keep you aware of them. I know that in just a second you're going to have a discussion about the purchase of a fire pumper. That pumper truck was slated to go in this West Dallas fire station. I spoke with the fire chief. They do want to go forward with the procurement. Again, all we can expect is the cost of that vehicle to get higher if we don't go ahead and do the purchase. We'll house it in a different facility until the West Dallas fire station is operational. I'll be happy to entertain any questions that you have.
The delay is caused from, originally FAA had approved this. In fact, the 911 center and fire station, 911 center we had been working on for, 18 months to 2 years.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
And actually had decided to co-locate those, had looked at property out there, what is being proposed to be built on property we already own. The grading was done through an FAA grant. Yeah, because they had to have the dirt from somewhere, so they took the dirt from the site.
That's why it was such an attractive location. The grading was going to be reimbursed through FAA, and still will one day. But their assertion is that any disturbance in that area short of completing an FAA could invalidate the EA. So rather than do anything, we're going to do nothing.
And the FAA had approved all this.
Right, it was fully approved. Right, this is fallout from the lawsuits.
And it's the lawsuit that attorneys sued the FAA in Washington DC.
This is the one where the attorneys filed suit in Washington DC, that's correct. There was a settlement. That settlement had to do specifically with how an EA would be conducted on the airport expansion, and as a result of that, they have halted indefinitely all activities associated with the airport, including fire stations and 911s.
Maybe take it a step further, Mike. It was my understanding that an EA had been completed, and the only change to the airport is that instead of the taxiway not going all the way to the end, you know, where there's already grading work done, that it would just go to the end of the runway, so that airplanes would not have to back taxi. But my main, what I'd like clarification on is, I had the understanding that an EA had been completed. Obviously, when the original airport was built, it was. Now if you're gonna lengthen the taxiway and that warrants another EA, so be it.
I was not present for those discussions with the FAA last week, and I'll give you my take on that. Was the old environmental documents did not address the extension of the taxiway. There was not, from what I understand, a real issue with the widening of the existing parallel taxiway, but the extension of the taxiway would have to fall under the new EA. Because this fire station could support commercial activities at the airport, they don't want anything associated with that subject having any activity on it. So they're going to wait. The fire station clearly was not there when the old environmental documents were done, and they weren't anticipated in those documents. So that's their position for holding. Whether or not you agree with it, I certainly don't. But that's the decision they made, and that's the one we're going to have to live with.
I know they're erring on the side of caution, but to me, it's totally ridiculous. You know, I've been out there and landed airplanes out there, and you're not changing anything by extending the taxiway.
I don't disagree with you. I've looked at it myself. I didn't realize the mess that is out there until you go take a look. The condition that it's in now, to me, seems quite dangerous. I don't pretend to understand how to operate an airport, but having airplanes taxi on the same piece of concrete that they're landing on doesn't seem to be an ideal situation to me. Again, I think they're okay with the widening of the existing taxiway. The extension they are not okay with, and any other groundbreaking activities out there are not going to happen until this EA is complete.
Thank you, Mike. Appreciate it.
The process out there.
That didn't come up the
We'll see y'all
process.
later.
Okay. It didn't come up the process?
No.
Well, what did it do?
It stopped them doing the things that they wasn't supposed to be doing at the airport without the authorization from the FAA. And you know that. They should have never done it to start with. They should have got the FAA approval.
We need to have FAA approval to build a fire station for people in West
At the
Paulding.
airport, yes.
At the airport, yes.
Yes.
Do
Somewhere else.
Do you think that if there had not been a lawsuit challenging it, with all the big bucks that were back there behind it, that anybody would have cared?
I have no idea. The FAA was brought into it, had to be brought into it to get 139 certification. That brought out the problem with the fire.
Well, they
station.
probably got, I figure they probably got the fire station built before anybody complained, and then they just said,
Well, that's what they were trying to do with the airport, was get it built and planes flying out of there before anybody could do anything.
well, no, they got to have the certification before they can do that. But if everything was in place, they could
The
do
only
it.
reason
Look, I mean,
everything wasn't
hey,
in place is because they'd run out of money.
Okay,
If they hadn't run out of money, they'd still be sneaking around trying to,
Okay.
they should have never been sneaky with the airport at all.
For Paulding.com, G.Patton Hughes reporting.